Yeah.
initially, and this is something.
But this is infrastructure week, so I'm sure it'll get better.
Well, that's unfortunately, you almost have to fix what's broken.
I know.
Wait till everything else is broke to fix it.
So we had done planning on the 7th, so we're on
Connor good?
2488.
He's not.
Second sheet.
I didn't say 7. You didn't seem like a package.
Do you have yours coming out to time? Down in 5 minutes, or?
As always, so we'll make sure
Any other public comment to sign up? Because we're going to start. Okay. It is 6:30. Thanks everyone for coming out. We are going to call to order the Gregg Township Board of Supervisors April meeting. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just a couple of comments before we go to public comment. We are recording, video recording the meeting. The video camera is over here tonight. We're testing the sound from the back and we couldn't get it to be loud enough on the video camera, so for tonight we moved it over there to see if that helps pick it up at all. Another comment regarding public comments. Well, please speak loudly when you give it so that the recorder can pick it up, but also public comments are to be directed to the Board of Supervisors. They're not to be between the audience or members of staff, but to the Board of Supervisors. So with that, we'll begin with public comment, and first up is Heather Albertson.
Am I allowed to talk about what's on the agenda for today?
Yes, you can,
Okay.
can't limit what you talk about, but you have 5 minutes.
You don't care what you talk about? Oh, man. Cool. Okay, down here in the right to know officer report, the 312, number 88. All email communication from or to Carrie Miller, Doug Beerley, Jennifer Snyder regarding Constable Grove, etc. You can all read that. Why not Charles? Why weren't you managing? Don't you do email? Why not Charles?
Make sure you're directing your comments to the board.
Why not Charles? I think, and I would like it if everything from here, every single right to know request gets printed out and put on our website. Because the unofficial one is crap. You have to be a member of the party to join, so I can't see that stuff. And that's all I have to say. Still, why not Charles?
Thank you for your comment. Next, Eric Croner.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairperson Miller and Board of Supervisors. My name is Eric Croner, and I'm a resident of Spring Mills, Gregg Township. I moved to the township in 2006, and over the past 3 years, I've had more interest and involvement in municipal government and recently began attending the monthly Board of Supervisors meetings, as my schedule has permitted me to do so. In addition, I've had the privilege of attending 2 PSAS conferences. If you're not familiar with it, that's the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors. And I've also had the privilege of attending some other training sessions, and most recently I attended a PSAS conference that addressed state policy and specifically your right to know law. I've always been an advocate of full disclosure, full transparency, and as all of us, elimination of corruption in government. The Right to Know law was enacted in 2008, and it was intended to reduce intentional corruption and concealment of information as it relates to the personal interests of elected officials. Historically, there have always been subsets of elected officials that have abused their positions for personal gain in a malicious, intentional manner, rather than for the best interests of the communities in which they serve. Just as there will be corrupt officials acting in their own best interests, there will also be a subset of citizens that, while serving as activists and with good intent, working to effect change, will create a malignant environment through abuses regarding laws and policies such as the Right to Know law. In review of the March Board of Supervisors meeting minutes, I noted that March 1st marked the 85th Right to Know request. While I do not know the average number of Right to Know requests made each year, I did note that there were 5 requests made between 2/28/18 and 3/1/18. There were also additional references to 3 appeals. In review of the April 12th minutes, there are now 105 Right to Know requests. At a recent presentation regarding Right to Know law, it was the consensus of all townships present that the average number of annual requests made was typically around 10 per year, 10 requests per year. And mostly those requests were made by businesses looking for data to establish a for-profit business in that township. While there were some comments and some Right to Know made by citizens, they were for the best interest of the community to show that there was information that was provided. Please note that I'm not questioning the legitimacy or the intent behind these 105 Right to Know requests. As long as there are laws that allow this form of action from citizens or citizen groups, we as a township must comply with the law regarding responses, whether they seem abusive or not. Lately, I've seen a significant amount of chatter on social media regarding transparency of the Gregg Township Board of Supervisors, and more specifically towards the Secretary and Right to Know officer of Gregg Township. I have observed that in earlier posts, comments were directed towards the Secretary, but now seem to often list that employee by name. I personally, and without input from any other citizens, am concerned that the focus of the Right to Know requests and the social media posts may be perceived as shifting to a personal attack on that person rather than focusing on the issues that are of concern. As a taxpaying citizen of Gregg Township, I am most concerned about the growing liability, not only financially for the township, but also regarding employees and their protections. In my limited review of the work submitted by the Secretary of Gregg Township, and in my professional management experience, I am convinced that any errors or omissions are not of malicious or ill intent. Inasmuch, I think it is our responsibility to preserve the good name of our employees and supervisors who act with good intent and not in malice. Regarding Gregg Township, I'm not only concerned about the mounting financial costs due to the Right to Know requests submitted, but also to the ability of one administrative personnel to fulfill the requests and serve as a Right to Know officer. Consequently, I wonder if it is time to hire an additional clerical employee to aid in the completion of these Right to Know requests in the time required by law without further extension. Therefore, as a taxpaying citizen, I would like to suggest that the board consider hiring an additional clerical employee to work on all Right to Know requests and serve as a Right to Know officer so that the Secretary can have time to complete other duties as assigned and to protect her from targeting as could be suggested based on recent social media platforms.
Okay, thank you. Time's up.
Thank you very much. My sincerest thanks to all servers.
Okay, we will now move on to, well, we opened bids at noon today, so we have that information we'll talk about in further down in the agenda. So we'll move on to liaison reports, starting with solicitor's report.
I don't have anything other than items that we'll be talking about later.
Emergency management coordinator.
I really don't have too much. In the last meeting, mainly we got through the water situation okay, but there's been limbs down, and I've been out taking limbs off the roads and that. But other than that, we've been pretty lucky. Hopefully it holds up. Thank you.
Gregg Township Fire Company.
Since the last meeting, we ran 7 calls, nothing too major, mostly wires down, things like that, a couple brush fire. We're talking about maybe replacing our brush truck. It's an old army truck, and it's a real liability when it comes going down the road. It's really not safe, and we've only got a couple guys that can drive the thing, so we have trouble getting out on wildfires and things like that. So we're going to try to get a smaller truck, hopefully. We can do that in Mifflin. We're talking about getting rid of theirs, so we're looking into that. Just something I wanted to mention. The Easter egg hunt, we gave away 6 bikes, and they were all donated by local businesses. And almost all the candy that we gave away was also donated by local businesses, so thank you for that to our businesses. We had a couple grant issues. Since I came on board, I found a lot of issues with getting grants from the state and from the FEMA grants. Some of our numbers that we need, DUNS number, SAT number for DCNR grants, things like that. Some of those numbers were flagged for removal because they haven't been used in so long. So I think I've got the ball rolling on getting them all released and getting those fixed up so we can start getting some money back into the fire company as far as grants go, and get us fixed up with new gear, equipment, and things like that. I'd like to thank Mr. Mike Flickinger, Graybeard Computers. He donated us a laptop that runs our I Am Responding. What that is when we get a call, our I Am Responding app comes up on our phone, and we hit open, and as the firefighter is responding, they can say responding to the scene, responding to the station, wherever they're going, so that we know who's where. And if we have a truck on deck that's getting ready to leave, we're not going to leave without somebody that's coming. Good tool. Leave with a full truck as opposed to 2 guys on a truck. Gun raffle tickets are in the works. They're getting printed right now. Most gun raffle tickets you see have a lot of guns and a lot of food, and they're $10. We put together a ticket with Ed Knoll at Knoll's Gun Shop. We're going to have 10 tickets for $5, and there's pretty good guns on that ticket. EMS fundraiser, I think, went pretty well. We're going to hear from Lindsay after a while. She's going to tell us about that. Thanks to everyone that helped make hoagies for that and everything else, and everybody that helped in other ways. We have a vehicle show planned for June 23rd at the Carnival Grounds. All vehicles, cars, bikes, big trucks, whatever. AJ Myers is in charge of that. Again, June 23rd is the set date for that. We're going to run bingo again on April 20th. Doors open at 5, I believe. Bingo starts, I think early bird starts at 6:15, regular bingo is 6:30. Also last month I forgot to thank our township guys, the roadmaster and those guys. They plowed a lot of snow for us to haul this winter. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for helping with that EMS fundraiser too.
Sure, thank you.
Old Gregg School Advisory Board.
We don't have a whole lot. We do recommend that the supervisors support allowing PCO to put some windows in the door, but we want to keep the integrity of the mural, so we'd like the windows to be lower. That's the one thing. We've set the date for a winter craft fair, which is Saturday, December 8th, and we're hoping that the fire company and EMS will also do something so we can kind of do it together.
What was the date? I'm sorry.
December 8th.
December 8th?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we also adopted resolution R-1802. We felt that we should follow along with the Board of Supervisors. We also still have cookbooks, hoping people will know anyone that needs them. They're $10. And we are still looking for new members.
Has PCO, they're working on plans to submit to us then? This is
My
the
knowledge.
first I've heard of it.
I think
I talked to Sandy, and she didn't seem to think that would be an issue to put the window below the mural. So,
because that'll just kind of take away from the whole.
yeah, yeah. So I felt reasonably good about talking to her, but we'll see when they come back to
Good.
what they're going to do.
Anything for-
Thanks.
Thank you. Pennsylvania Code Enforcement.
Nothing that's not in the report this week.
EMS.